Twitter handle. Oh, we have to accept that we want to be recorded. I'm going to click continue. So follow me on Twitter, pbriggs728. Guess when my birthday is? Yeah, it's like a month from now. Oh my gosh, I'm well over 50. And now what y'all, all of y'all are thinking the same thing. All of you are thinking the same thing right now. You're like, you're doing the math. You're like, wait a minute, he's been a school teacher, as a administrator for over 31 years. He's well over 50. And y'all are thinking the same thing. Y'all are thinking, that brother can't be over 50. Oh, yes, he is. The secret? The secret is cocoa butter. I'm going to give you that one for free. Let's move on. There's my email address. Please email me if you need anything or you have any questions after this session. But without further ado, let's go. Unless you want some more ado. You know, I was that kid who would have been in the back of your class and you would have said, without further ado, I would have raised my hand and I would have said, but we in the back want some more ado. Can we please have more ado? Yeah, I was that kid. So, but I had great teachers like you who understood little Patrick. Now, let me take you back. So we've had a social emotional learning check-in. That's one of the things that, you know, teachers were the most powerful people on the planet because we control so many variables for children. So you saw we started with a social emotional learning check-in, something that made you smile, something that you're grateful for. And that's, as a teacher, I insist, I stand at my door every day and greet my students because I can see their temperature. Now, one of the things I wish somebody had told me 31 years ago is, as a teacher, I'm the thermostat. I used to be the thermometer. You know, I would change hot and cold with children, especially the period after lunch. Oh, but now I understand. No, Patrick, you're the thermostat. You can set the temperature in your classroom. That's a famous quotation where I have come to a chilling understanding that what I do matters every day, and what I do in my classroom actually controls the trajectory of the rest of kids' lives. So that's why I love starting with the social emotional learning check-in. Let's go ahead. So here is our essential question. I love essential questions. Changed my life as a teacher. So let me take you back, and I know you're copying this essential question. Let me take you back 31 years ago. So I'm a first-year teacher, fresh out of college. Woo! You couldn't tell me anything. See, I had a college degree from Prairie View A&M University. Anyone? No? Okay. It's a school in Texas. Let's keep going. And of course, I had my teaching certificate from the state of Texas. Now, the reason why you couldn't tell me anything, and I knew it all, was because my teaching certificate, well, let me ask you, does your teaching certificate have an expiration date on it? Do you have to renew it? Do you have to do? Yeah, mine doesn't. Yeah, back in the 80s, we used to get lifetime teaching credentials. My teaching certificate expires when I do. So think about it. You couldn't tell me anything. And I started as a 7th grade teacher. That's where I started. 12-year-old people. 7th grade science was my first teaching assignment 31 years ago. And I love essential questions because 31 years ago, I would write my objective on the board. I'd write things on the board like, the students will be able to distinguish among characteristics of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. I have like a learning standard or a target on the board. Now I'm curious, what do you write on the board? Is there something you have to write on the board? You have to write like a learning target, an I can statement, the students will be able to. So what I love asking teachers is, why do you write that on the board? Mm-hmm. Can we keep it real? You know, we don't have a lot of time. Can I keep it real with y'all? Now, I'm sure you're writing it up there for a very good reason. I would write my learning target, my standard, my I can statement, I would write it on the board because somebody told me to. I was being compliant with an administrative directive. Now let's keep it real. I want you to keep your job. So if that's what you're told to write on the board, let's do that. But there was nothing that said I couldn't turn it into a question. Because I'd have a learning target on the board because, in case I got a walkthrough, I was going to get that box checked. Of course I was. But then I'd ask a 12-year-old person, you see my learning target on the board. The students will be able to distinguish among characteristics of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. I'd ask a 12-year-old person, so what are we supposed to do today? They looked at me and said, I have no idea. You write that up there every day. And I realized then I was writing it to be compliant. Again, if that's what you're told to do, be compliant. I love essential questions. Now you're going to be with me for 45 minutes, 12-year-old people. What should you be able to answer as a result of our time together? And it becomes my exit ticket. It becomes the children giving me an opportunity to know if they learned that objective. See, before I went to essential questions, I would put a learning target up there, and I know I taught it. I know I taught. And then I'd wait for the test and realize they didn't learn anything. But again, that was 31 years ago when you couldn't tell me anything. So you have the essential question, how can I, talking about us, ensure that all means all and bridge the achievement gap? We're going to come back to that. That'll be your exit ticket. All right. So with that being said, let's start here. All children can learn. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, I believe that. Let's not get it twisted. I believe that. But y'all said I could keep it real with y'all. So let's go back 31 years ago. Now, look at that picture. Look at that picture there. That's a classroom. Oh, God, I want to be in that class. Look at the teacher up front. That teacher is happy. Isn't he excited? He's grinning. I see all of his teeth. Look, he's excited to be in school. Look at those children in the picture. Well, they are excited too. I see they have hands raised. I see them all smiling. They're excited to be in that classroom. Look at that. 31 years ago, I looked like that man on the first day of school. And not again until the last day. Oh, I'm going to keep it real. But the 178 days in between first and last, that wasn't me. How did I get there? How did I go from being on fire, I'm going to change the world, my dream job is to be a school teacher, to by Thanksgiving, there were 2 or 3 of those kids I didn't like. See, I was a hot mess. You couldn't have told me that then, but I was a hot, steaming mess. You could, by Christmas, I was hating children. How does that happen? How do I go from being on fire, I went to college to be a school teacher, I want to be a school teacher and change the world, to by Christmas hating children? How does that happen? See, what I know now is that I defaulted to how I learned. I began to teach little bitty Patricks. If you were like me and you learned like I did, and you got through school like I did, then you did really well in my class because I was teaching to and for you. I would say silly stuff like, that's how I learn. That's how you gonna learn. My job is to teach, your job is to learn. See, I was a hot mess because if kids don't learn the way you teach the way they learn. Let me give you an example. My hot mess self 31 years ago, I would give my kids notes. I assume you give your kids notes. Oh, but I was Oprah giving out notes. Oh, like candy. I was like, you get notes on photosynthesis, and you get notes on photosynthesis, and you get notes on photosynthesis. Everybody gets notes. Oh, I was giving out notes like candy. And kids took the notes because I made them. And I remember vividly, I remember looking at a classroom of 12-year-old people. And I said to them, okay, class, put those notes away. Your first test in my class will be Thursday. Study for this test. That's loaded. Put those notes away. It assumed they had an organizational system. It assumed they had binders and they were going to open up their little 3-ring binder, take my science notes, put them in the science section behind the science tab, close up 3 little rings. See, I knew they were going to do all that because they were 12. My hot mess self would say silly stuff like, they should know that by now. I'm paid to teach science, not a skill such as organization. Something they need to be college and career ready. But my silly self would say stuff like, they don't pay me for that. I'm here to teach science. They're 12. They should know how to organize. See, what I know now is organization is a skill that can be taught if you choose to. Put those notes away. Test Thursday. Test Thursday assumed they were going to open up their planners. We gave every kid in our building a planner. Oh, it was gorgeous. It had, the mascot on the front, and had all kind of stuff in the front, like math charts and periodic tables and all of the bell schedule. And then it had calendars. Oh, it was plastic coated and color coded. It was beautiful. So when I told children, put those notes away, test Thursday, study, I just knew they were going to all open their planners and they were going to write down test Thursday. And because they were 12, I knew they were going backwards map. Wednesday, call my study buddy. We're going to get together a blue arrow over to Thursday's test. Tuesday, have my mom quiz me so I can be ready for my study buddy session. Orange arrow over to the test. See, I knew they were going to do all that because they were 12. My hot mess self would say, I'm paid to teach science, not a skill such as calendaring, backwards mapping, goal setting, things they need to be college, career, military life, and workforce ready. But I would say silly stuff like, they don't pay me for that. I'm paid to teach science, not organization and backwards mapping and calendaring. They should know that by now. They're 12. See, what I know now is calendaring, backwards mapping, goal setting are skills that they need to be college, career, military life, workforce ready, and they can be taught if you choose to. Put those notes away, test Thursday, study. Study? Assume they knew how. I would tell children study. So I told a room full of children, and I remember this vividly, 31 years ago. I said, all of you will make a 100 on this test. And a room full of 12-year-old people looked at me and said, Mr. Briggs, you gonna give us 100? I said, I never said that. What I said is you all are gonna earn a 100 on this test because I made the test straight from the notes. Of course, you're gonna get a 100. And I even showed this first class. I said, here's what I'm gonna do, students. I'm gonna look at your notes and I'm gonna say, that's in the notes, number 1 on the test. That's in the notes, number 2 on the test. That's in the notes, number 3 on the test. That's in the notes, number 4 on the test. 20 handwritten questions straight from the notes. Of course, you're going to get a 100. So that Thursday came, and I'm a first-year teacher. I'm about to give my first test ever. So I'm a real school teacher, right? I mean, I'm going to have a major grade in my grade book. Oh, doesn't get any more real than that. So I was excited. I put on a little suit. You should have seen me. I'm giving my first major exam today. So I walked into my classroom that Thursday morning as a first year teacher about to give my first test. And I looked at a room full of children and I said, okay, class, y'all know I'm a little excited today because as a first year teacher, I'm giving my first test ever today. And a room full of 12-year-old people looked back at me and said, Mr. Briggs, do we have a test today? I said, people, we went over this. Remember, I told you, put those notes away, test Thursday study. I showed you how I was going to make the test. Of course we have a test today. Why are you asking me that? And remember, I told you, you will all make a 100. I took a stack full of tests home that Thursday night, and I graded them. Guess how many 100s I had? 0. I even had kids fail that first test. But because I knew it all, remember, I was a hot mess, but because I knew it all, I walked into my classroom that Friday morning. I had a stack full of graded tests, and I said this. I did say this. Again, I was a hot mess. I looked at children with a stack full of graded tests where nobody made a 100 and several of them failed. So I looked at children and I said, what is wrong with y'all? I'm a good teacher. Just see my college degree and my lifetime teaching certificate. I'm good. Y'all are the problem. Again, I was the problem, but I didn't know it 31 years ago. So I told a room full of children, I said, okay, take out the test, take out the notes. If you find anything in that test that didn't come straight off the notes, I'm going to give y'all $1,000 a piece. Oh, I didn't have $1,000. I was a first year teacher, but I knew I didn't need it because I made the test from the notes. They weren't going to find anything in the test that didn't come straight off the notes. So 20 minutes later, a room full of children looked at me and said, Mr. Briggs, everything in your test came straight off your notes, bruh. So again, I said, so what's wrong with y'all? See, what I know now is what I was teaching children to do was how to copy. That's the course I was teaching. How do you copy from an overhead projector 101? Should have been the name of my course. Yes, I was using science words and phrases to do it, but my note taking in my class was an exercise in copying from a board. That's what they were learning. Can you get a science word from my board onto your paper and have them look the same? Can you get this sciencey sentence from my board onto your paper and have it look the same? I was teaching children to become very good copiers. Can you become a good copier? Can you become a proficient copier? I want you to be the best copier in the world. That's what I was teaching. And then shame on me for being mad at children who couldn't perform on a science assessment. And that's when I realized we as teachers are the most powerful people on the planet. Nobody has more power than a classroom teacher because we control several variables. The first one we control, well, it's in no order here, but the social emotional check-in, the greeting students, we control all of that. Another thing we control is the variable between curriculum and assessment. You see, I had a 7th grade science curriculum. This is what you're supposed to teach. Teach this to children, 7th grade science curriculum. I had a 7th grade science assessment. Here's the test. Here's how you know if they've learned it. My curriculum was 7th grade science. My assessment was 7th grade science. They were actually aligned. What I was supposed to teach was tested. My curriculum, what I'm supposed to teach, my assessment, how I know if you've learned it, 7th grade science. In between curriculum, what I'm supposed to teach, and assessment, how I know if you learned it, is a variable. That variable is called instruction. And what we choose to do with our variable called instruction controls the trajectory of the rest of a kid's life. Shame on me. I had a 7th grade science curriculum. My instruction, how to copy, become a good copier. My test, analyze and apply 7th grade science skills and concepts for me. See, I should have given them a test. How do you copy in my class? They would have all made a 100 on that. Because that test, how do you copy, would have been aligned with my instruction. Another thing I didn't know 31 years ago. Oh, I wish somebody had told me. Relationships matter. This was 90% of my issue, by the way. Relationships matter. Do y'all know? And I'm telling on myself. 31 years ago, I told another teacher, I said this. I told another teacher, I am not paid for these kids to like me. You know, Dr. Phil, you ever watch his show and somebody says something real silly like that on his show? He always looks at him and says, how's that working for you? And it wasn't. See, what I know now, I don't care what I'm trying to do. Look at all this peer-reviewed literature, all this research. If I'm trying to increase their feeling of safety at school, if I'm trying to increase academic test scores, if I'm trying to increase their understanding and meaningfulness of what I'm teaching, if I'm trying to reduce absenteeism, decrease dropouts, every piece of peer-reviewed literature you look at will say there is one single biggest factor. The biggest factor in how well will children do is what is the relationship like between the child and the significant adult in the room. See, I learned this the hard way as well. I remember I became much better my 2nd and 3rd year teacher. It gets better. I remember as a 2nd and 3rd year teacher, I understood the power of relationships. And so I had kids that loved me and I loved them, never had a problem because I invested so much in relationships that I had a kid, don't do this. Don't do this. This worked in the 80s. Don't do this. But I had kids that, you know, I just loved them and they loved me, but they were kids, right? So, you know, so every once in a while, one of them would misbehave in my class, you know, just being 12. So once in a while, a kid would misbehave, and I didn't know this was because of our relationship, but I did this. I went over to little Johnny. Isn't it always little Johnny? Little Johnny. I went over to Johnny. He was misbehaving at my science table. So I went over to him and I looked him dead in the face and I said, I wish you would. I wish you would misbehave in here today. Oh, you feeling froggy today? Then jump. Johnny looked me dead in my face and bust out laughing. He was like, ah! You so silly, Mr. Briggs. And I said, yes, I'm silly. Get back to work. He was like, okay. I was like, oh my gosh, that worked. I now know how to solve any behavior problem. A kid is even thinking about misbehaving. You just go over to him and say, I wish you would. I wish you would. You feeling froggy, jump. And he'll just laugh and get back to work. That works on everybody. I figured that out. I didn't understand it was because Johnny and I had a good relationship. Because later that day, since, I was young, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to try it out on a kid I don't know. Let me try that out on a stranger. Some of y'all are ahead of me. So I'm walking in the cafeteria later that day, and I see a kid misbehaving at the cafeteria table. I don't teach him. I don't know him. He doesn't come down my hallway, but he's misbehaving at the cafeteria table. And I thought, oh, today in second period, I wish you would, you feeling froggy, jump, and he'll laugh and get back on track. Let me try that on this stranger. So I go over to this strange kid and I say the same thing, same words, same phrases, same voice tone. I say, I wish you would. I wish you would. Oh, you feeling froggy? Then jump. Oh, and that kid jumped and cursed me out. And I was like, why did he treat me differently? I said the same thing, same words, same phrases, same voice tone. In second period, Johnny laughed and got back to work. I said the same words, same phrase, same voice tone, same punctuation to this other child, and he cursed me out. Why did they treat me differently? Where I come from, they say, because he don't know you. What we now know is that is called relational capacity. Relational capacity, you can see the textbook definition of it there, but let me break it down to you in these 4 bullets. Relational capacity, what can I say and what can I do solely based on our relationship? Notice that little Johnny in second period, because of our relationship, he was like, oh, okay, I'll just get back to work. This is not personal, that second bullet. Can we have conversations we need to have without it becoming personal? Notice in second period, Johnny was like, oh, I like Mr. Briggs, he likes me. He's not coming for me. He just wants me to do well in school. Okay. But in the cafeteria, same word, same phrase, same voice tone became a personal attack. The only difference was relational capacity. What can I get you to do based on our relationship? Because there are a lot of kids who will work for you before they're ever interested in learning from you. Because I can't fix the kid if the problem is the relational capacity. See, when I became an assistant principal, I wanted to change behavior. Let me go here. Y'all have things like in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, expulsion in your schools. You ever had a kid go to suspension and come back fixed? You ever had a kid go to in-school suspension and come back and say, woo, I saw the light in there. Well, I'm going to straighten up and fly right. I'm going to make straight A's for the rest of my life. I will never get in trouble again. Please, it's a punishment. Punishment's job is not to change behavior. Never has been. That's not its purpose. Okay, y'all got quiet because y'all are thinking, wait a minute, I got punished as a kid. It changed my behavior. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Here's what punishment will do. Let's go here. All y'all speed on the freeway. Oh, it's just me. All y'all speed on the freeway. What do you do when you see the cop car on the side of the road? Oh, you slow down. Interesting. And when the cop didn't get you and you can't see him in your rearview mirror anymore, what do? Oh, you speed up. Interesting. Oh, but wait a minute. You understand that's a punishment. You understand I might get a ticket. I might get a fine. I might have to miss work to go down to the courthouse. I might get points on my license. None of that stops you from speeding. What punishment will do, and punishment's one job, punishment's purpose, by the way, punishment will modify your behavior. when the punisher is present. Well, let's go here. I remember when I wanted to change behavior. Teaching, again, another reason why we're the most powerful people on the planet. Teaching changes behavior. Punishment has never been designed to do it. Punishment will have a kid step on his brakes, but it will not change behavior. It will modify it when the punisher is physically or metaphorically present. So when I became an assistant principal, I wanted to change behavior, and I know teaching does that. Of course, I did that in my classroom as well. So a kid would misbehave, and I'd be like, you know what? Let me change your behavior by teaching. So, let's role play. You be the teacher. I'm going to be you. I want you to see how you acted. And the kid would be like, did I act like that? Like, yeah, bruh, I know you. Yeah, you acted like that. Now, let's talk about strategies that you're going to use. I'm going to put some tools in your tool belt so that you will have skills and knowledge and tools to behave differently. Now, let me be the teacher, you be you, because I want you to see, I want you to go through this process with me. And the kid be like, yeah, I acted like that. Yes, you did. Now, let's talk about what we're going to do differently. I'd spend an hour trying to change behavior. And the teacher hated me because I'd write on the referral, Johnny and I had a great conference. The teacher hated me because I didn't kill him. My question is, do you want his behavior changed? Or do you want him punished? Because the easiest thing in the world for me to do would have been to punish him. That would have taken 5 seconds. Here's punishment in that scenario. Johnny, you suspended. Call your mama. You going home for 3 days. But he's coming back. What you gonna do? You're gonna write him up again, or you're gonna punish him, or you're gonna work to change his behavior. Because not one rule we have in school causes good behavior or grades or choices. Every strong relationship you make will. As you go out into the classroom, you'll find that students get written up. I didn't even know that in school, until I became a teacher. Students get written up and go to in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension because that never happened to me. I had no idea that happens. And then what you'll slowly realize is 85% of the referrals are written by 15% of the teachers. And y'all teach the same kids. Is it the kids? Or is it the relational capacity? Man, if we could have that school-wide, that is, like I said, that was 90% of the issue. Relational capacity. So I love you all as teachers. And one of the things I always do if I ever came to your school or your district is the first thing I'd ask you is, what is your mission? Because I said, what problem are you trying to solve? People bring me into schools all the time and they're like, can you do this? And let me stop you. What problem are you trying to solve? What is your mission? What is your purpose? What is your vision? And I always read, I know it before I go in. I can search your website. But there's always the words like each. We believe each child we believe all children will do, and one of my favorite questions is to ask, does all mean all? And the reason why a mission is important, because a mission is your purpose. I love that. I saw in the chat earlier, someone said about their purpose. A mission is your purpose. Why do you do what you do? Why do you get out of bed every day? Why are the lights on in the schoolhouse? Why they collect taxes? The mission tells you their why. Great book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. Changed my life. Let's start with why. My mission. So why do I get out of bed every day? Why have I dedicated 31 years of my life to being a school teacher? That's it. to close what we in this country call an opportunity gap. Now, notice when I look at my mission, I don't call it an achievement gap because there's no such thing. Oh, I'm the poster child for the achievement gap. Now, we in this country, especially we educators, we know what that means, achievement gap. It means a group of kids performs here, a group of kids performs here based on race or skin color or income or some factor. And we separate kids into groups based on zip code or income or skin color or disability or language spoken at home. And so we have these groups of kids, and there's this gap. Look, oh my gosh, look, there's a gap between how they perform. In my graduate classes, the very first thing I say is, the systems you use are perfect for the results you're getting. When I look at any result in a school, there is a system that causes it. There's a system that creates it. The systems we use in education are perfect for the results we're getting. So when I look at a school or a district that I get the privilege to support, when I look at their results, I say, let's examine the systems. The systems you use are perfect for the results you're getting. So when I talk about achievement gap, there isn't one. I'm the poster child. I should have been a part of an achievement gap. It doesn't exist because I had great teachers like you who understood the achievement gap is a result of systems that are in place in schools to achieve it. Not y'all, let's go back to Texas. So let me give you an example of systems we as adults put in, and then we were shocked that, oh my gosh, look, there's a gap between skin color and zip code and language spoken at home. There's this huge gap. Oh my gosh. And we spent a lot of time, effort, and energy trying to fix that gap, but didn't look at our systems that were designed to create it. So we actually had two gaps that adults created that led to our achievement gap. And when we fixed those two systems, we had a different result. The systems you use are perfect for the results you're getting. So the first gap we had in my school in Houston was an opportunity gap. Who had the opportunity to learn at high levels? Who had the opportunity to be college and career ready? Who had the opportunity for courses of rigor? See, had you come to my school before we fixed the systems, my in-school suspension room did not mirror the demographics of my school. My advanced placement, honors, interbaccalaureate, concurrent enrollment, prestigious classes did not look like the demographics of my school. So who had the opportunity to be in-school suspension, to be in self-contained special ed, to be in honors or AP or dual credit? See, we had different opportunities we were giving kids because my in-school suspension room was full of geniuses, but they were never going to get the opportunity for courses of rigor because of perceived behavior. The second gap we perpetuated was the expectation gap. We had a system in our school that had an expectation gap attached to it. So who did we expect to be in honors, AP, dual credit? Who did we expect to be in self-contained special ed? Who did we expect to be in school suspension? And our systems were created to have this result of where kids were separated based on some demographic quality. Because the kids in my honors classes were not my smartest. They were my most compliant. Oh, you can sit still and do a worksheet? Let's test you for gifted and talented. Oh, you're brilliant, but you get out of your seat? Let's test you for special ed. See, we were controlling that. And then we were shocked that we had an achievement gap. And it was when our school worked together to create a system that closed our opportunity gap and closed our expectation gap, then we didn't have an achievement gap. because there are no learning gaps in our children. We as adults have to work to close opportunity and expectation gaps. So my theme as you go into your next sessions, and when you look at your district's mission and vision and purpose and goals and strategic plan, ask yourself, does all mean all? And the thing as school teachers, we control our classroom. Does all mean all in your classroom? Does each mean each? Does every mean every? So ensuring that all means all, instruction, that variable between curriculum and assessment. That's why we as teachers are so powerful, because my instruction 31 years ago was lots of packets, lots of worksheets, straight rows, straight desks, don't move. My instruction changed to be very inquiry-based and Socratic, where the kids were doing most of the work. Remember, the person in your classroom doing the most work is the person in the classroom doing the most learning. Relationships, we control those. Once I became the thermostat instead of the thermometer in my classroom. But as we, as teachers, as a group of teachers in our building said, let's invest in relational capacity. Didn't even need an in-school suspension room. Because go back to relational capacity. What can I get a kid to do for me based on our relationship? Can we have conversations we need to have? And then as adults, how do we close those opportunity and expectation gaps? Because an achievement gap is a result of systems that are in place to create it. So you have to look at your systems. And so I had to look at those systems in my classroom. What was I doing to create a gap, an opportunity gap, an expectation gap? What was my instruction? And like I said, 90% of it, what was my relationship? All right, so hopefully you can answer this essential question, your exit ticket. I'd love to see it in the chat. How can I, tell me what is your takeaway from our 45 minutes together? What's your takeaway? How can you ensure all means all and bridge that achievement gap? Love to see that in the chat. Again, follow me on Twitter, tweeting some great stuff. And there's my email address in case you have any questions or want to follow up with me.